forgot we were on the kids one. This is PragerU portraying Frederick Douglass as one of the good ones for working within the system to get slavery on kids one. Let me change the channel. Glorious Liberty document. Personally, I find William Lloyd Garrison's argument to be a bit more compelling, especially considering those 3 clauses we just went over that exclusively protect D2, titled, "What to the slave is the 4th of July?"
What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, impunity and hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour.
Well, that's rather scathing, but not the line I was looking for.
In that instrument, I hope
Wisconsin, he was now legally free. Again, referencing the Somerset case. The lower courts went back and forth on the matter until it reached the Supreme Court in 1857. Of the war, the North passed the Confiscation Act of 1861, stating that any escaped slaves
for the Negroes. Listen to me when I make an appeal for America. You claim you love America. Well, we love America. But you are driving us back and you are making a Samson out of us, and we are going to pull down the pillar. Should you try to pretend that I'm crazy because I want America to be saved? And then you think we have no right to ask for something? Is it too much to ask you to grant us human dignity? Should we be put down and shot to death for this request? If so, you can aim your guns. What the hell do you think we care about dying if you're going to deny us the right to live?
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else
he couldn't understand anyway, obviously, because he asked me the question.
The 400 years that I've existed there, the 3 years, 3 generations within my own family, why don't you know? But I'm like, what is it so new in 1968 or, in the 60s that you gotta learn? Because my grandfather was born, he's 90. My mother was ready for integration. She's middle-class Negro. Now, all of a sudden, you come to me and you say, communicate with me. Hell, I've been here all the time. Where were you? What do I have to say to you? The most advanced nation in the world. It has to be resolved. It has to be resolved because I want my children to have it.
The Negro man has been emasculated and destroyed by the fact that every time he stood up, he got just snuffed out right there. So I don't think there's any question but that there's going to be violence and brutality.
After his death, Floyd McKissick, head of the Congress of Racial Equality, warned that nonviolence as a philosophy is dead. Stokely Carmichael was quoted as saying, "America must be burned down in order for us to survive." Will it come to that in the end? The message of black nationalists and extremists is coming through loud and clear. It does not reflect much hope for a reconciliation of the races. But to what extent do Negroes actually support extremist doctrines? The premise of black separatist argument is that blacks must build their own society because whites do not want equality of the races and are not even sympathetic to Negro problems. But do most Negroes believe that premise? First, we ask Negroes, do you think most whites are sympathetic or not to the problems of Negroes?
They might be, and then again, they might not be because they don't act it. They don't act in no way to try to give us any kind of help.
The majority of Negroes agree with this woman. 59% say whites are not sympathetic to the problems of Negroes. Next, we ask, do you think that most whites in this country do or do not want complete equality for Negroes?
I doubt very seriously that a white person would want to accept me as an equal today. I mean, I have quite a few white friends that say they would accept me as an equal, but when it comes right down to it, I can ask one if he would accept me as a son-in-law or accept me as a neighbor on an equal basis. And I doubt very seriously if he could answer me truthfully and say yes and mean it.
The majority of Negroes, 67%, say whites do not want complete equality between the races. So it seems that most Negroes do agree with the contention of black separatists that whites are unsympathetic to Negro problems and do not want racial equality. It's difficult to see how this opinion could prevail without some feelings of resentment, anger, even hatred. But does this mean that the majority of Negroes are ready to turn their backs on white society and accept the doctrine of black separatism? Some blacks are demanding a separate nation for Negroes outside the United States. Others, like the leader of the African Nationalist Partition Party, the self-styled Chief Ogunche, want a nation for blacks carved out of this country.
The states that the party has selected, if you will, I can call your attention to the map here, is the 12 original Confederate states of this country. Essentially, we consider those people as living on the trespasses. They've been living there to a great extent through the benevolence of our people. It is now that we feel that our people should take stock of situations as they are and analyze it and demand living on the trespass. That to a great extent through the benevolence of our people. It is now that we feel that our people should take stock of situations as they are and analyze it and demand that these people remove themselves from that area in order that we might set up our government there and, of course, in analysis, form our nation.
2 questions in our CBS News survey dealt with proposals for a separate nation for black Americans. We asked, is a separate country for black Americans outside the United States a good idea or not a good idea? An overwhelming majority of Negro Americans say a nation for blacks outside the United States is not a good idea, and only 5% approve. Well, what about a separate country for Negroes within the United States? This idea was opposed by about the same majority. 87% said no. Some typical comments of disapproval.
A separate Negro company is out of the question. We all got to live here in this world, all of us. And it's impossible for this world to be separated. Impossible.
I think it's horrible. I think it's the worst thing that they can really set up. You're asking for equality. How can you have equality setting up a state of your own?
I feel that we will lose more by separating than we will if we plan for total integration, or if we fight for total integration. I don't believe in the separated states, no.
The 6% of Negro adults in the nationwide CBS News survey who favored a black state either in or outside of the United States translates into more than 700,000 Negroes. In a campaign to change minds, 700,000 people who are so alienated by our society as to want to leave it, an exercise of force which must be reckoned with.
From 8 until late, I think about you. You're on my nights, I don't know what to do. I can't get no rest, can't get no sleep. Yeah, this whole thing got way too deep, and we should stop making a big deal out of the little things. Cause I got big deals and I got little things. I got everything I'm asking for, but you stop making a big deal out of the little things. Let's get carried away. Come right now, you know where I stay. I just wanna say you're mine. I just wanna say you're mine. Would you hurry, you're mine. All I'm really asking for is you. You're mine. I just wanna say you're mine. Would you hurry, you're mine. Long as you know who you belong to. you.